All right, let's take a look at I-power pattern stuff. The way that I would like you to think about this is that I is the number that's equal to the square root of -1, which allows us to do square roots of negatives. Now, I squared is -1, and that's a really important mathematical fact because you should be comfortable with the number -1. So if we can find the negative ones in every I power, we're going to be okay. So if you look at this one, if I do I to the 36th power, okay, I to the 36th power is I squared how many times? Well, that would be 18, because 18 times 2 is 36, so that's I squared 18 times. Well, that's really just asking what's -1 to the 18th power. Well, if you do this enough times, you figure out that a negative times a negative makes a positive. So all we're really saying is what -1 times -1 times -1 times -1, 18 times. Well, -1 times -1 is 1. If I keep doing that, I have 1, and I have a whole bunch of pairs of 1s. Well, because this is even, I'm going to have even groups. The answer to that question is going to be 1. Okay, let's take a look at another one. How do you do it if it has 1 more? Well, I to the 37th power would be I squared 18 times. That makes 36 of them. Then times I, because we would have 1 more left over. So then I squared to the 18th power is the same thing as -1 to the 18th power, which if you don't know that, you can use your calculator with parentheses if you had to, right? You could go -1 to the 18th power and type it in and it shows up as 1, but you better know that that's 1, and then times I, because you still had an extra I there, so that's 1 times I, which is just plain old I as a solution. Okay, then the next one is I to the 38th power. I to the 38th, that would be I squared. It would be 19 times. That means I'm doing -1 now 19 times. That's odd. So that's going to be negative because I'd have -1 times -1 times -1 an odd number of times. That's going to make -1. Then I've got 39. That would be I squared 19 times 1 more because that's 38 of them. There's 39. And so then that's going to give me -1 to the 19th power times I. Well, I know that this is odd, so that's going to make a negative. So that's going to make -I as my answer. Just for fun, let's keep going. I to the 40th, that would be I squared 20 times. Well, that's -1 20 times. Well, that's going to be +1. And the pattern starts over again. So the only 4 possible answers you can get when you do any of these questions is you're either going to have the answer is going to be +1, like this, +I, -1, or -I. Those are your only 4 choices. If you think about how many groups of I squareds are in there, you should be able to figure it out. Now, if you want to keep going with this and look at a calculator, here's what a calculator does. Let me show you a couple of tricks. There's a couple of little slight tricks that if you learn the calculator business, you might be okay. So we just did I to the 36th power. Well, in my opinion, that's kind of a confusing answer. So a couple ways to think about it are look for the big minus sign or the big plus sign. This is a little minus sign, that doesn't count. But if I look for the big one, then that separates the answer from what the calculator is trying to communicate as being 0. So literally you could cover up that E part and the answer is just this 1 right here. So the answer is 1. Okay, another choice, let's keep going here. So second I to the 37th power. Now look at this. Where is the big plus or minus sign? That's what I want you to look for. It's right there. That's the big plus or minus sign, so the answer is I. Let's try again. I to the 38th. Where's the big plus or minus sign? It's right there, so that's your separator. So this is all the garbage. The answer is -1. Try another one. I to the 39th. Where's the big plus or minus sign? Don't say the answer is -1. It isn't. It's right here. That's where the big minus sign is. The answer is -I. So if you look for the big plus or minus sign, the calculator gives it away. It can actually do that one. That's interesting. Let's go 41. Can it do that one? Okay, again, where's the big plus or minus sign? It's right there. The answer is +I. Keep going to 42. Where's the big plus or minus sign? It's right there. So the answer is -1. So there is some patterns you can use on your calculator as well as being able to look for the I squareds in the pattern. Okay, that's what you want to do is how many I squareds are in that power, and then you should be able to figure it out because we know I squared is worth -1.